In this video, we are going to cover the Fifth Dynasty in ancient Egypt. The Fifth Dynasty, along with the Third, Fourth, and Sixth Dynasties, are grouped together under the title of Old Kingdom, which was a time of tremendous prosperity and saw some of the greatest structures built in ancient Egyptian history. The founder of the Fifth Dynasty was the Pharaoh Usurkov. Little is known about Usurkov other than the structures he built. His reign may have ushered in the first direct trading route between Egypt and her Aegean neighbors. Reliefs from Usurkov's temple depict naval ships. In addition, a marble bowl was discovered from the Greek island of Kythera. The bowl bears the name of Usurkov's sun temple. Usurkov constructed his pyramid in Saqqara, in close proximity to that of Djoser. This was a huge change from most of the Fourth Dynasty pharaohs who constructed their lavish pyramids at Giza. You will also notice that the pyramid of Usurkov is much smaller than those built during the Fourth Dynasty. The reason for this is that Usurkov likely directed some of his resources towards the construction of his sun temple, which we will get to in a minute. The pyramid he constructed was so poorly laid out that once the limestone on the outer layer was looted, the complex began to crumble. Today, all that remains of the pyramid is essentially a pile of rubble. Usurkov's greatest change affected the Egyptian religion. You will remember in the previous lecture, the Egyptian pharaoh Djedefre assumed the title Son of Ra. During Usurkov's reign, Ra took on an even greater importance, as he is the first pharaoh to build a dedicated temple to the sun god. The sun temple emphasized Ra's creator function and his role as father of the pharaoh. This is an artist's rendering of what an Egyptian sun temple might have looked like, as they all had the same basic layout. Here is an obelisk which stands on a podium, which in turn rests on an even larger podium. Each sun temple had an altar where rites would have been performed. A thick wall also surrounded the temple. The complex had a main entrance that was typically accessed via a causeway from a valley temple below. Most sun temples that have been found were heavily destroyed, and so an exact reconstruction is often difficult. Usurkov built several other sun temples and established a tradition that was followed by several other pharaohs in the Fifth Dynasty, so much so that they are often referred to as the Sun Kings. Sahur became Pharaoh of Egypt after the death of Usurkov. Reliefs from his pyramid detail successful military engagements against the Libyans. These campaigns yielded large quantities of livestock. Also, historical records and surviving artifacts indicate an extensive trade network that was established during Sahur's reign. The pharaoh sent out trade caravans to retrieve copper and turquoise. In addition, reliefs found in his pyramid detail a naval expedition to Lebanon. Sahur also dispatched a trading expedition to the famed land of Punt, which yielded malachite, electrum, and many more expensive goods. The previous pharaoh Usurkov maintained a policy of appointing non-royal individuals to high offices. Sahur expanded upon this process to the highest position, the office of the vizier. The vizier was the second most important person in the pharaoh's administration. Other supervisors and officials, such as generals, tax collectors, and architects, reported directly to the vizier. Sahur's first vizier was part of the royal family, but his successor was apparently a non-royal. The reason for this was likely to prevent dynastic disputes. This broke with the tradition from the earliest dynastic pharaohs, who appointed a royal prince to the office of vizier. Sahur was known to have followed Usurkov's example and built a temple dedicated to the sun god Ra. However, the location of the temple has never been ascertained, and the structure may never be located, as there is evidence that future pharaohs dismantled it for construction materials. Sahur chose to construct his pyramid complex in Abu Ser, thereby abandoning both Saqqara and Giza. Abu Ser is located between Saqqara and Giza. Following Sahur's choice, Abu Ser became the main location of choice for the next several pharaohs in the Fifth Dynasty. The pyramid he constructed was cheaply built, with many sections held together with just a thick mortar of mud, rather than some of the complex stone-based techniques of the Fourth Dynasty. Similar to Usurkov's tomb, it exists today mostly as a large pile of debris. Notice also the close proximity of Sahur's pyramid to Usurkov's sun temple. Nefer Akari was the eldest son of Sahur, and became pharaoh after his father's death. His rule witnessed a growth in the number of administration officials. They became wealthy in their own right, which allowed them to build sophisticated mastabas. These high officials were even able to record their own biographies for the first time. Very little is known of Nefer Akari's trade and military activities during his reign. The only evidence of trade are some seals involving relations with Nubia. Records indicate that Nefer Akari was a kind and gentle ruler. One inscription from the pharaoh's tomb relates to an interesting incident. A nobleman accidentally touched the king's mace during a ceremony. This was considered a dangerous situation, since the pharaoh was viewed as a living god. The pharaoh, however, immediately pardoned the aristocrat, and the incident was quickly forgotten. Nefer Akari built the largest pyramid during the Fifth Dynasty, and you can see the location of the structure on this diagram of Abu Ser. It is nearly equal in size to the Pyramid of Menkaura at Giza. Interestingly, the structure was initially built as a step pyramid. At some point, the architects changed their mind, and a true pyramid was constructed. However, you can still see traces of the original steps. So here is an artist's rendering of what the main pyramids at Abu Ser might have looked like. Here is Nefer Akari's pyramid, and here is Sehur's. In the distance, you can see Usurkov's sun temple. Now, this is a good time to explain the relationship between all of these types of temples at a given complex. This is representative of the layout of many pyramid complexes, both at Saqqara, Abu Ser, and of course, Giza. Okay, so this first temple is the Valley Temple. These were usually the first entrance point into the overall complex. It often served as a reception area. Rituals would have been performed here as well. It was not uncommon for valley temples to be constructed near a river or lake, since this provided easy access by boat. Next, a causeway was usually built that led up to a mortuary temple. Mortuary temples were designed to commemorate the reign of a given pharaoh. The king's cult would have used the temple as a place of worship after his death. The temple grounds also served as a repository for gifts that were offered to the dead pharaoh. After the mortuary temple came the main pyramid or mastaba. It was here where the pharaoh's sarcophagus was placed. In the next lecture, we will continue on with the Fifth Dynasty.